Thank you. I think this is going to be a good follow-up to her question.
We think so too.
I love Oprah Winfrey. I've been watching her for years. And I think she's done good things, but recently she brings a lot of attention to a lot of tragedy around the world. And I guess my question for you is, how's that helping? I can't see, in terms of law of attraction, there are so many people that want to keep the Holocaust alive. And now people who want to bring attention to the things that are happening in Africa. I guess I have a little bit of trouble myself with where the compassion is for what those people are experiencing, except that if you trust that they're experiencing what they have attracted to themselves, then everything is perfect, just as it is.
Well, you are understanding that this leading edge experience, let's start in another place. The basis of your experience, of course, is freedom. You are so free you can choose bondage. And when your objective is joy, then everything's in its perfect place, because as you are reaching for the thought that feels better, life causes you to ask for more. And then as you objectively reach for joy, now alignment takes place, and then you get the personal experience of expansion. But whether you or anyone as an individual actually applies that process deliberately and allows their personal expansion, the expansion cannot help but happen. Because people are mixing it up all over the place. People are launching rockets of desires. And when any of you ask, even if you are the one-celled organism, Source answers it. And so the expansion is a given. So we're talking about step 1, which is asking. Can't help but do that. Step 2, which is Source answering. Always happens every time. And step 3, which is getting into the state of allowing what I'm asking for. So now let's take that to a mass consciousness level instead of an individual level, where mass consciousness is having a variety of experiences. And let's say that something, by anyone's standards, sort of big is happening in a Holocaust, or in what's going on in Africa or Iraq or anywhere. And as that experience is happening, of course, anyone who has any awareness of it, which means those who are living in it, certainly, those who are worried about the massacre, certainly, those that are worried about the bombs dropping on them, certainly, those that are worried about their sons and daughters in the war zone, certainly. In other words, different people from different perspectives have different interests in, different involvement in, and different rocket launchers as a result of whatever life experience is giving them. So then take someone like, who were you talking about? Oprah, who is now shining a spotlight on something so that it is broadening the range of people who are beginning to feel involved. In other words, if I don't see it or hear it or know about it, then I'm not in on the launching of rockets. But if I am now, by virtue of a television program, drawn into it and seen enough of it, then I can, from the safety and well-being of my living room, I can then launch more rockets of desire. So what's happening in your highly technologically evolved world, where there are hardly any corners anymore that you can't all be involved in if someone decides to shine a spotlight on it, you are, as a mass consciousness, doing more step 1ing than you've ever done before. And step 1 is the asking, which means there's more answering than there's ever been before. And so it helps in that way. It isn't necessary, but it helps in that way. In other words, the more people who are seeing something not wanted, the more people who are, even at conscious and unconscious levels, launching rockets of desires about what they do want. So the program benefits in that sense. And of course, Source Energy now is answering a stronger stream of questions. Now, the question that this workshop addresses is that now that you've launched those rockets, now a part of you has become this. In other words, when you are only watching a television program, but from that you get yourself riled up again enough that you launch a rocket of desire, now you are going to forever be uncomfortable if you don't come into alignment with what you're asking for. And that's where those television programs feel at odds to you, because they stir you up in that they cause you to launch rockets, but they don't give you answers or solutions. So what's happening is mass consciousness is getting more and more fractured and more chaotic, because you're seeing more, which means you're asking for more. We've been saying for years, mind your own business. And by that we mean, if you're just tending to what you're living, you can launch a rocket and clean it up, and launch a rocket and clean it up, and launch a rocket and clean it up. But if you watch television all day and now you're worried about the war in Iraq, and you're worried about the massacre in Rwanda, and you're worried about the little girl that fell in the well, and you're worried about the father that kidnapped his child and crashed in an automobile accident, and you're worried about, and you're worried about, and you're worried about, and you're launching rockets all over the place, you get chaos in your vibration because you don't have time to clean up everything that those television programs are launching.
Or need to.
You don't need to, but if you're going to watch the televisions, you got to know how to clean things up. Otherwise, you're just going to get more and more out of balance. But then what happens is, the more of you watch and the more of you get out of balance, and this is a very good thing, you don't want to be out of balance. You don't want to feel bad. You innately want to feel good. Every fiber of your being knows that you're supposed to feel good, and while you might not have made the connection of that consciously, you know what makes you feel good and what makes you not feel good. So more and more, you're turning that off. You're turning it off. You're turning it off. You're turning it off. Well, now those who are presenting the programs don't want you to turn it off, because they benefit from you turning it on. And so they get more and more dramatic in order to get you to turn something on that you at an unconscious level turned off. In other words, it's the whole ratings war, isn't it? Mm-hmm. And so what we would say to any of you, we don't want you to turn your television off. We want you to watch it selectively. We want you to get tuned in with who you are, and let law of attraction help you pick your programming. And we don't want you to be upset about what anybody is showing on television. We want you to get so good at maintaining your own balance that you can maintain it in your world. You can maintain it in a broader world. You can maintain it even in a television world. You can get so good at bringing yourself into alignment. How can I now be happy under these conditions? That's a big question that could very well be applied to that too. Mm-hmm. And you already have done a good job of that just now. You say, I can be happy under these conditions by acknowledging that no one is living anything outside of law of attraction. And I can be happy under these conditions by understanding that at best I'm getting a distorted view by what the television program is trying to offer me. And I can feel better under these conditions by acknowledging that if I were there living in that environment, that the discord between where I am and where I'm wanting to be may be different than what the television program is providing for me. In other words, when you take yourself to an underdeveloped country, underdeveloped by your standards, where you know of all of the things that life can offer, you know about the conveniences of life and the cleanliness of life and the variety of life as you live in such a magnificent culture, and then you go to an environment where none of that is available, you're going to have a big crevasse between what you want for them and what you see them living. You're going to suffer more on their behalf than they are. And that's another problem with those television programs, is that they can't not give an accurate point of view of anyone that's actually living it, you see. Jerry was reading some statistics to Esther from the paper a day or two ago, and there were 2 studies that were based on the same set of statistics that came about 2 entirely different results. And Jerry said, it's what Abraham says, that people can make the statistics or offer the analysis to get whatever results they're looking for. And we say, that's law of attraction working too, isn't it? When you set out with a premise and then you offer a study, the study is going to give you what you set out believing, because law of attraction is the biggest factor in every single study. So then you want to say, well, then what is the motivation of anyone showing a television program like that? What is the motivation? Are they trying to make the world a better place? What is their ultimate motivation? And we say, the only way that first we say, asking that question is the only way that you will free yourself from trying to analyze whether it's right or wrong that they do it. In other words, everybody gets to do everything that they want to do, and law of attraction is going to line them up with whoever is a vibrational match to it. So the bigger question that we feel is bubbling within you is, Abraham, why are so many millions of people a vibrational match to that kind of programming? And we say, it's because that many millions of people feel powerless. That many millions of people feel powerless to do anything about it. And so when somebody offers a program that points out powerlessness or chaos, they resonate with it even though it doesn't feel good, because that's the way they really feel. So then here comes teachers like you who teach to the clarity of your example. So what do? Do you go watch the show and then protest it? Do you petition it, try to get people not to watch the show? Or do you just let them do whatever law of attraction leads them to do, while you do whatever law of attraction leads you to do, and you just demonstrate to anyone who's close up and anyone who wants to know that you've figured out how you can stay happy even under these conditions? And there will be those who will criticize you. They will say, yes, I see how you stay happy. You put your head in the sand. And we would say, if we were standing in your physical shoes, you bet I do. I do anything and everything that I have to do to maintain my alignment with Source. And when I get a glimpse of something that hurts me in my gut, I make an effort not to do that again real soon. It's like touching the hot stove. I learned that when I was really little. I reached out. I didn't like it. And I don't ask the stove to cool off. I don't ask it to be different than it is. I just identify my relationship with it. I utilize it to my advantage, not to my disadvantage. And that's the way you're wanting to utilize everything, to your advantage. Source will show you how to do that, you see. You can tell by the way you feel whether your involvement in something is beneficial to you or detrimental to you. And then we want to give you our favorite thing under these conditions to give. You can't get poor enough to help poor people be prosperous. And you can't get sick enough to help sick people get well. And you can't be traumatized enough to help traumatized people find clarity. In other words, you just have to find it. We can feel from you that, and Esther has done plenty of that. She screamed at the television quite a bit. Don't you know you're promoting that? Or don't you know you're promoting that? Or don't you know you're promoting that? And finally, Esther's come around to understand that not only is it not her job to teach them all a better way to live, but even when she knows a better way for them to live, she cannot force it upon them. In other words, Jerry and Esther have for a very long time understood and done their very best to practice the art of allowing. In other words, when you come to a gathering like this, Jerry and Esther at first, especially in the beginning, they listened to the girls on the telephone, and they listened to the girls, and they said, don't try to sell anyone anything, just take orders. In other words, we are not here trying to promote. We are here just offering what we have to offer. And law of attraction is bringing those who are wanting it. And those who are wanting it will benefit from it, provided that they are in the place of receiving it. But that's as far as it goes. There's no hype with us. There's no promotion with us. There's no coercion with us. There's only, this is what we are. This is who we are. This is how it feels to us. You might like it. You might not. The option is totally yours. In other words, the art of allowing, you see. Mm-hmm. Yes.